I actually don't know what we called this. What did we call this?
I don't think we called it anything in particular, more than like that it's about talk to the entities. But I'm wondering if you would like to just talk a little bit about like what is it even to be aware of entities? Like what is entity awareness basically?
Yeah, and I love that we're like right on jumping to the topic, but I will remember to say that my name is Satu. And I haven't talked to entities facilitator. It took me years to learn to say my name at the beginning of like Zooms and stuff, but now I remember it. So very proud moment. So yeah, I would talk to entities facilitator have been a few years, and I'm from Finland. And talk to the entities tends to be one of those things that you never really think about it. It's just somewhere there at the back of your head, and you do all these other access classes, and everything else seems to be more relevant, more interesting. It's like money and body and all these things that are at the top of your priority list. And you think that entities have nothing to do with anything. And maybe later on you will look into this topic, maybe. But what I have found is that when I started looking into entity stuff, that actually changed everything else as well. Because it is a way to also become more aware of everything, all the energies, everything that you don't necessarily see or that is not considered normal in this reality. But there's so much there that would be a contribution or that would change things, for example, in your body. And I had a lot of change in my body because of the entity stuff. So it is way more present in our everyday life than what we think. And one of the key things with talk to entities is stop thinking. So everywhere where you're all trying to think about entities and think what it is for you, what it cannot be, what it does, what it doesn't do, can we just discern and create that?
Yes.
And also, how much aware have you all been of entities that you have not been acknowledging? Because for a lot of us, it is such a like, it's just there, but you don't really talk about it because nobody talks about it. And at least here in Finland, it's like, nobody says anything. But when you mention something, hey, you know, this thing that has to do with entities, like, yeah, I totally do that. Like, totally get it. Like, talk with them in the forest every day. It's totally normal. Like, oh, so it's totally normal, but you just don't talk about it. So how much can you acknowledge how much you are already talking with entities and everything that doesn't either can discern and grow it all? Yes. Was not yawning when I went clearing.
And yeah. One thing also that I discovered not that long ago is that an entity is actually a being with all our bodies. So what isn't an entity actually isn't everything. I mean, entities are everywhere.
We can like almost hear what you're saying.
Can you I'll have to come.
You need to come a little closer.
Sorry.
Now can you hear me? Yeah.
Now I'm looking at a screen where you're not. Woohoo! No, I was just saying that I discovered not that long ago that an entity is actually a being with or without a body. So what is not an entity? Pretty much, I mean, entities are everywhere, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's like, you know, money is an entity as well. Yeah. Apart from the entities that, you know, that you're referring to, there's also, you know, everything else, money and business and whatever else. And yeah.
So it is about learning to talk and communicate and create, receive and cooperate with everything, not just those dead grandpas or something like that. Everything.
Too, though, right?
Well, you could talk to dead grandpas as well, but it might not be as much fun as the other entities that are available for us to co-create and play with.
Exactly.
So everywhere we have all been limiting what talk to entities and entities could be for you, can we discern and create that?
Yes.
And it is super interesting for me. I have this completely nuts grandma. My mom's mom, she's just like insane. And everybody in her, like she's at this elderly home and they're just going like, oh my God, like what is going on? They don't get it at all. But for her, what's happening is that she cannot differentiate between entity world and those of us who have bodies. So for her, a being that has a body or doesn't have a body, it's the same. It looks exactly the same to her. And then she talks about all these people who are there, and the nurses, and everybody's like, fuck, like, what the heck? And the good thing is that I have these tools, my mom has these tools, so we know what's going on. But so much the things that don't make any sense in our world is because we're just not looking at what's really there. So for example, for these nurses, if they were acknowledging that, oh, she's just chatting with all these entities as well, they would have so much more ease.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, Satu. And it's really like, you know, I've heard this many times, but you know, you hear it when you hear it. And in another way, like the only reason why you get stuck by something, or why something is hard, or why it's not working, or whatever, is because you're actually not acknowledging what actually is. Yeah. Like as soon as you have that awareness and that clarity, then you can just be with it and deal with it in whatever way is required. But if it's like this thing that is just like, I don't know what's going on, then of course you can't really choose something else, right?
Yeah, and you can't use the tools that would actually work on it. And then we try to like medicate people like that, or we try to just put them aside and go, oh, there's something like, let's not look at that. When you could really just use these tools that are super easy, but you have to find like, what is the tool that you require for this? So if you try to deal with it from like, I don't know, using a tool for bodies, a body process, that's not going to change it, because that's not the tool for that. That's not what is going on.
Right. So could you talk a little bit more about what you mentioned with that you've seen a lot of change in your body? Like in what way?
Oh, goodness.
Big question.
Well, for me, like in Talk to Entities, we talk about something called entity awareness signals or symbols or signs. So we all have these different things that occur when there's entities around. And for me, that was, for example, these insane headaches. Like I would just suddenly get this thing as if something hit me at the back of the head super hard. And then I would have this headache that would like last forever. And there was nothing I could do to like ease it. Nothing helped, no bars or anything helped that. So here's a good thing, like you try bars for something that is not something that bars can help with. And the only thing that would help was that I had to go to sleep and then sleep like 12 hours. And then it was over. And then when I took the Talk to Entities class, I realized that, oh, there's an entity present every time when I'm having this headache. And it's not that the entity just appeared. It's been there a long time, trying to get my attention. And first it's like, hey, 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 hey. And then it hits me in the head because I don't listen. So then I started asking myself to be aware faster. Be aware of these entities when they appear, not when they've been there for weeks and I'm getting a headache. And then that went away and I didn't have those headaches anymore. So that's one of the things.
That's awesome. That's so like, I love like how pragmatic it is. Like just acknowledge what is and use a simple tool and then it can actually change.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, life can be so easy.
It's really great what you say, because if you put it in a like everyday life, this reality kind of situation, it's like saying, and people thinking like, yeah, but bars should be able to solve everything. And it's, I mean, then you can compare bars to a Swiss Army knife, you know, that has a lot of tools. But if you're going to need a big wrench to unscrew a massive bolt in your car engine or whatever, well, you're not going to do it with a Swiss Army knife, are you? So
right.
It's like,
will just be unnecessarily hard job to do that way.
Yeah, exactly. You can try, it might take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
It will be hard work.
Yeah, you might have fun with that too.
So it's really, it's brilliant how, you know, like Amanda said, is being pragmatic with all of it and really seeing what it is. And that's what I really love about Access in general as well, is that there's so many different specialties with all these specialized tools that are not actually specialized tools. It's tools for everyday life, every single one of them.
Yeah.
But that's what I've been loving about the last few years, is that we've been choosing so many different classes and different topics and some that I never thought that I would take. And so much more is opening up, and especially with the talk to the entities that I've had present, in my life without knowing it, until I took a class, and I realized that, wow, okay. So I've been functioning in this way in my life based on this and this and this, and that's when you can start clearing it and actually create a lot more ease.
Yeah. And one thing that, since we are Scandinavians, and I actually started doing access when I lived somewhere else, and then I moved to Finland after some time, and there was this massive like resistance to everything access related. There was just this energy that was like, no, don't do this stuff here, no, stop it. And I thought that was me thinking that I shouldn't do it here. And I kept having this sense like I should move out, I should not be doing this here. If I will continue to do access stuff, I have to do it somewhere else, but not here. Until I realized that this was entities. There were entities here in Finland who didn't like access. They didn't want me to do this stuff here. And then when I started acknowledging that and actually cooperating with these beings who were so against it, a lot of people think that cooperation is that you will get your slave army. That's not what it is. It's this thing where you look at, okay, this is this person's or this entity's point of view. What can I do with that? How do I work with that so that I get to create what I would like to create? So that was quite a massive thing. And I've seen over the years, so many facilitators here in Finland not succeed. They try to do access, but they encounter these same entities. They think it's them. They think it's impossible for them to do access here, and they stop doing access here. They stop choosing consciousness because of that. So who are you all listening to? Who's telling you that you cannot do the things that you'd like to do?
Yeah.
What often happens at the talk to entities classes, they end up being these manipulation classes. It's like, how can you actually, what words do you have to use and what do you have to do and be to be able to create what you would like to create with people, with entities, with whatever there is?
Can you talk a little bit about, because there's so many different types of entities as well, like there's the helpers, there's the entities of light, the beings of light, there's a lot of different types.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about like one or two of those.
Yeah, well, I think like for us here in the north, what we all are quite familiar with, even if we don't acknowledge it, is nature spirits. So all those creatures that live in the forest, in the lakes, in the nature, basically. And a lot of people tend to have this point of view that they are those like cute fairies and they're like best friends and they will always like look after you, but no. A lot of them are also those who don't like access. So that was like part of those creatures that I found that were against access here for nature spirits. They didn't like it. They didn't like us to spread this stuff here because they wanted to own people here. They wanted to own these lands. So all the points of view that you all have about nature spirits, that doesn't allow you to perceive what nature spirits actually are. Can you just try and create that?
Yes.
Nature spirits and beyond. And it's so interesting. I have this like big forest like right next to me, and I go there quite often. And there are some areas there that it's just like no go. This is ours. And just the other day, I was walking through this one area, and I kept like the energy when you enter that specific area is so different. A lot of the forest is so amazing and magical, and you feel so good there. And then you go through this like border. You enter this different area, you're like, am I gonna die? Is someone gonna attack me? What's gonna happen? And you keep seeing like something all the time, like from the corner of your eye when you're not quite sure, you're like, was there something? But you don't quite see it. So, and it was interesting to notice those beings there and be like, oh, well, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that this was really your area. This was not an area for people. So I'm just going to go away and leave this for you. So these are beings who live on this planet with us. And then we just go and take their forest and build houses and stuff on it. And no wonder things don't work. Like you might have all these issues with the houses built on those areas, like mold issues and all kinds of stuff, because we were not co-creating with the beings who were there.
It's really funny what you say when you say that, because it makes me think when I was in Borneo many years ago, and for the first time, and they told me that we were just about to go into the rainforest there, and we stopped just as we were entering. We stopped, and I asked them, what were we doing? And they said, well, we're just talking to the spirits of the forest and asking for permission, and we're asking for their blessing. I was like, okay, well, that's pretty cool. So they were actually asking, is it okay for us to enter and don't harm us and whatever. And then afterwards, when we came back, they told me that there is this fruit called durian, which is like, it can be like this big and weigh a few kilos, and it's got spikes. It's way more dangerous than a coconut falling on your head. And
it's like a murder coconut.
It's a murder coconut, basically. And they were telling me the story that there's been quite a few accidents with these durian killing people, or sending people to the hospital at least. But none of those people were actually indigenous people. It was mainly tourists that were walking into the forest without asking for permission.
Yeah.
And there had not been any injuries from durian with local people.
Yeah. And before we knew how to like handle this kind of stuff, and we used to like co-create with the earth so much more.
Yeah.
And at least like in a lot of the like the developed countries, there's been a lot of this like movement from countryside to cities. And like they keep saying that the countryside it's not sustainable to live there. It doesn't sustain you. It's because we are no longer creating with the earth that is there and with the creatures and beings who are there. Before we knew that, so it was possible to live in the countryside and in like nature places, but it isn't anymore because we have lost that connection and we no longer know what we're doing. When we present, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. It really is this thing of co-creation and coexistence on this beautiful planet. Not just among beings that look slightly like us, which we actually don't. I mean, how alike do we look like? I mean, we don't. And but there's this comfort zone of like, yeah, I can accept you as long as you have 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, and you kind of remind me of what I see in the mirror, kind of. But if we go to 4 legs, I'm starting to, I can take you in as well, because you might look cute to me and whatever, but everything else, we kind of dismiss it totally, and we separate from it, and there's no more this complicity and co-creation with everything that is here, whether we can see it or not. And so I'm so grateful for you doing these classes. And especially bringing it to Sweden, where we have not had a Talk to the Entities class here before. Yeah. So I really wonder, I don't wonder, I know the great gift that this is for those that choose it, to actually start having this conversation and increase the awareness about what entities actually are. Because when we talk about entities, people think about, these guys, the little spookies, they think it's ghosts or demons. And that's it. And sure, it can be that too, but there is so much more. I mean, it's like what you said. You walk in the forest and there's like a border. It's almost like passport control. And
it's so cool as well, like that what you were saying with that, of like how much do we judge ourselves, and that we go into like, I have all of these weird things in my head that I'm going to be attacked in the forest and blah, blah, blah. Like, and then we go into the wrongness of us because we don't actually acknowledge that it is awareness.
Yeah.
We're like, what's wrong with me, rather than just like, oh, okay, it's fine. I'll go back. It's okay, and not make a thing out of it.
Did you have this thing of like, I'm an adult, I should not be scared in a forest, I'm scared in the
Exactly.
dark, And I saw this funny post some time ago that said that some of you are not scared being alone in the dark. You're scared that you're not alone in the dark.
Exactly.
And there was this other time when I was in the same forest, and there was suddenly this like massive, like really huge branch that fell like right behind me. I was like, whoa, like that was dangerous. And then this complete paranoia, like, oh my God, what's happening? And there's something wrong, and like something's gonna happen to me. And then I was like, wait a second, what am I doing? Bomo walls and barriers down. Okay, what's here? And immediately I got this like awareness of this big creature that was up in the tree, and that had made the branch to fall so that it would get my attention. And then when I turned my attention to it, it was like, hi. And I was like, well, hello. It was like, finally, see me. And I was like, hello. And that was that. But that took away that whole sense of like paranoia, like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. What's happening? It's the middle of the daytime. I shouldn't be scared. But it was just this creature trying to get my attention. And a lot of the time people ask like, hey, like I'd really like to see entities, like really see them with my eyes. How can I see them? Like, I don't know if you want to do that.
Exactly.
Because there's so much that doesn't really fit into the idea of reality that we have. So that's one of the things that these classes do a lot. They challenge your idea of what reality is. Because you might start seeing stuff and then you're like,
it's such a like a expansion of your world. Like that's really what it's been for me. And I haven't, I have so much more to discover when it comes to talking to the entities, but like that expansion of like, whoa, the world is so much more and so much bigger than just the things that I can see and whatever. It's so it opens up to so much magic.
Yeah.
And it's just it's amazing, and it's so much fun to play with, and I'm so excited to explore it more with you in this class.
And we are so not alone. And for a lot of people, it's like, oh my God, somebody under my bed. That's like what I mean. I mean, like those of us really looking to create something greater, and especially with the earth, we're not alone in that. There's so much that would like to contribute and create that with us, and we're just like fighting against that contribution. I wonder what would happen and what could the world and this planet be like if we stop fighting against.
Yeah, and especially in these times where there's so much, insanity going on in one way or the other, and we all know what I'm referring to. But I mean, I wonder how much more ease we could all have, and really what you just said of what the world could look like if we're actually willing to not separate anymore and be aware of it.
So could you just quickly, before we end, like mention what are the classes that you are doing here? Because it's 2/1, like
it's the 2/1 classes.
Yeah.
So there's Talk to the Entities introduction evening. It's Friday evening in April, and then there is the 2.5 day class. So the 2.5 day actually includes the Friday evening. So you can either come on Friday evening, or you can come for the whole weekend, starting from Friday evening until Sunday late afternoon.
That sounds way too yummy.
Yeah.
And it's April 8th to the 10th.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that
right
place
here in the round room. It's right here in the round room.
Yeah, with my little co-facilitator who's on the floor now.
Yes.
Yay, here it is.
Cool. Well, I'm super excited, and thank you so much, Satu, for coming on, and just I'm excited about these classes. And if you guys that are here in the room or online, or if someone is watching this in the recording and you have questions and stuff, you just reach out to me and Andrea.
Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. There is a rule. You're all welcome, including you that don't have a body. But if you don't have a body, you have to bring somebody else with a body that pays for you and for them. That is the request. Well, the demand, actually.
A funny thing about that, I like years ago, I was having a foundation class, and I think it was like Monday, And there was this, I lived in a house and there was this loud crash in the house. And then I started hearing from this other room, this like very angry, like tossing away things and like banging and all this. Like I was like, okay. And I didn't really pay much attention to that. I lived with the roommate and she came home and this was happening in her room. And she's like, what's happening there? I was like, don't worry about it. I'll handle it later. And then somehow it just popped in my head to turn towards this creature that was clearly there. I was like, hey, are you here for the foundation? And he was like, yes. So freaking angry. And I was like, okay, all right. And then I said, well, first thing that popped in my head was to say, well, foundation starts on Thursday. So if you're going to be at the class and today is Monday, you have to sit pretty until the class. And you have to bring someone to pay for it. 2 hours later, I get a message from somebody saying, Satu, the foundation starts very soon. Can I still join? And I was like, yeah, sure you can. And then I was like, oh, wait a second. Turn towards this creature entity. I was like, is this your payment? And he was like, yes. The class starts and this creature walks from this other room that he was waiting in and sits next to the participants. And I was like, okay. I kept looking at like, do I need to talk about this? Do I need to mention this? And it was like, no, I don't. And after 2 days, this creature left.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
yeah. So entities can bring people to your classes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whatever business you have.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Tack så mycket.
Ja.
Tack själv. Tervetuloa.
See
See
you
you
soon.
soon.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Satu. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.